Okay, hi everyone, Daryl here. Today we're going to talk about what is a dormant company. So by definition, right, there are actually different definitions for both IRAS and ACRA. If you're running a company, definitely you have to adhere to both IRAS and ACRA. IRAS is the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore. ACRA is the Accounting Corporate Regulatory Authority. So IRAS actually is the one that companies pay taxes to. Personal taxes are also paid to IRAS. ACRA is actually the body that regulates companies and entities. Okay, so both IRAS and ACRA has different definitions for what a dormant company is. Okay, so by definition, IRAS states that if a company does not have revenue during the financial period, the company is dormant. So the company may still be dormant even though it has incurred expenses. So for example, if the company pays for rental, and maybe pays for goods that it purchases, but it does not have any revenue, that means no revenue came into the company, then the company is dormant during that financial period. But for ACRA, right, it's a little bit different. So ACRA deems a company being dormant as a company that has no accounting transactions during the financial period. So the expenses of appointing a company secretary and or auditor, the maintenance of a registered office and registers, and any penalties or fees to ACRA, right, do not affect the dormancy. So what this means is that if you have an accounting transaction like paying for goods, then you are not considered a dormant company under ACRA. So you would still have to fulfill the requirements of a non-dormant company. But in the eyes of IRAS, right, that expenses, even though it's incurred as an accounting transaction, right, because there's no revenue during the same financial period, IRAS deems you as dormant, ACRA can deem you not dormant. So sometimes you have to follow the specific definition for IRAS and the specific definition for ACRA. So it's totally different. Sometimes you will need to see in what context we are talking about dormancy. Okay, so for example, for my clients, right, if they pay us, they pay the auditor, they use our company address as their registered address, like we receive letters for them, we receive notices for them in our company address. All these fees, right, they don't mean that the company has lost its dormant status. Okay, so we touch on IRAS, right. What do you need to do if you want to register with IRAS that you are a dormant company? So you need to inform IRAS of dormancy status by applying for a waiver of the dormant company's obligations to file its corporate tax returns. So you need to inform IRAS of the dormancy status. If you don't apply for this waiver, right, the obligation to file the corporate tax returns still remains. So once the waiver is granted, it removes the need to declare corporate taxes till the company is active. So so long as your company, right, fulfills the dormant status, right, then in terms of IRAS, so long as you have applied for the waiver, the obligation, the need to declare corporate tax will always be there. The removal of the need to declare corporate tax will always be present. That means you don't need to declare corporate tax until the company is active. So the waiver is only granted, right, if these conditions are satisfied. Okay, so if you have an outstanding Form C or Form CS has been submitted, so if the company has still some outstanding declarations with IRAS, right, then you cannot apply for dormancy status. You must clear all these outstanding submissions with IRAS before IRAS will grant you the dormancy status. Next, right, if the company has any investments or derive any income from its investments, let's say the company invested in a commercial property, then it is receiving rental from the commercial property, then this would mean that the company is not dormant. Okay, or if the company owns shares in a certain a certain company, like maybe it owns shares in SIA or OCBC or DBS, then the company cannot be dormant because the company owns investments. So if applicable, right, if the company is registered for GST, the company has to deregister for GST, right, before the waiver application. So if you apply for the waiver application even though the company is GST registered, right, then the waiver application will be rejected. So the company must also not have the intention to recommence business activities in the next 2 years. So IRAS is saying that if you just want to be dormant for 1 year, next year you're going to be active again, you should not be applying for this waiver at all. So for ACRA, right, is a bit different. So like in IRAS, you need to inform IRAS of the dormancy status. You don't have to inform ACRA of the dormancy status because you only update this status, right, when the company does its annual return filing. So when you do your when the company does the annual return filing for that year, then we will update the status of the company to dormant company. Okay, so the obligation to do the annual return filing still remains. So even though you apply for waiver to file corporate taxes with this what you call that, with IRAS, and then IRAS approves, but you cannot waive this. It doesn't mean that you apply with IRAS and IRAS deems you dormant, means that you can continue this dormancy status with ACRA. It's not the same. You have to apply, you have to inform IRAS is with IRAS only. ACRA, right, you have to update ACRA of your dormancy status during the annual return filing. Okay, so the obligation to do the annual return filing still remains. So if this year you file annual return filing, say dormant, doesn't mean next year don't need to file annual return filing. You still need to do your annual return filing. Okay, so I hope that this clears up some confusion when it comes to what a dormant company is. Once again, this is my email address, so if you need to contact myself or any of my colleagues, right, you can email us at info@singaporesecretaryservices.com. So that's all from me today, and I'll see you at the next video.